Ani Difranco, we're going to spend the hour with her today, and we welcome you to Democracy Now!
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yes, the singer, the songwriter, the guitarist, and the band leader, Ani Difranco. There's a lot to talk about. We last spoke with Ani in May of 2001. Since then, the country and the world have certainly changed. Some 3,000 people have died at the World Trade Center just down the block from us. Over 3,000 people have died in the bombing of Afghanistan. Unknown hundreds of immigrants have been detained and deported. Around 100 people have been executed by state governments in this country. The stock market has crashed. Over 1.5 million jobs have been lost, including tens of thousands at Enron, WorldCom, Global Crossing, and Arthur Andersen. Over 1.3 million people have joined the ranks of people in the U.S. who are living under the poverty level, and the nation's poverty rate is increasing for the first time in 8 years. A man who is not popularly elected president has declared war on the world. And Dan Rather, one of the most famous journalists in this country, said of George Bush, "Wherever he wants me to line up, just tell me where." Who better to talk all this over with than Ani Difranco? For our listeners who are still unfamiliar with this musical phenomenon, a little background. Ani Difranco was born in the blue-collar city of Buffalo, New York. She picked up a guitar at age 9 and a few years later began writing her own songs and playing in local coffee houses. Ani moved to New York when she was 19. Within a year, she had recorded a few hundred tapes. The tapes sold out, so she founded her own record label, Righteous Babe Records. By 1993, major labels were approaching her regularly, and she regularly rejected their advances. President and CEO of Mercury Records, Danny Goldberg, called Ani Difranco one of the most brilliant and compelling artists around, a genius. Well, she didn't take the bait. Over the years, Ani's music has woven together styles ranging from folk to funk, rock to R&B, jazz to soul. She sings of the political and the personal, of love, of sexuality, and loneliness, of sexual abuse and police brutality, and about the perversion of democracy in America, to the perversion of media in this so-called democracy. She has a new poem now about 911. She went from a woman with a guitar to a guitarist plus drummer to a trio to a 6-piece band. Now she's just completed her first solo tour in 7 years. Ani tours the U.S., all the time, plays regularly in Europe and Australia and Japan. Ani has released 20 albums, and Righteous Babe Records has sold 3.5 million of them. Welcome to the Firehouse Studios of Democracy
Thanks.
Now!
I like your new digs.
Yeah, it is very nice to be here with you.
Yeah.
Actually, we are just blocks from Ground Zero. September 11th, the people who survived came tumbling down the street here, covered in ash. And when I saw you in concert at the Beacon Theater here in New York, the night before, you ended with a remarkable poem called 911 that is on your latest, well, not exactly 911, but about 911.
Self-evident, yeah, it's called.
And it's on your latest album, So Much Shouting, So Much Laughter. And people are still talking about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been really cathartic to travel around and perform that poem and, feel all the support for those kind of sentiments that, as you say, are just not found in the mainstream media. But you want to hear it? Is that the idea? Okay, shut up and do the poem. Let's see. How's it go? Yeah, us people are just poems. We're 90% metaphor, with a leanness of meaning approaching hyperdistillation. And once upon a time, we were moonshine, rushing down the throat of a giraffe, rushing down the long hall despite what the PA announcement says, rushing down the long hall, down the long stairs in a building so tall that it will always be there. It's part of a pair there on the bow of Noah's Ark. the most prestigious couple just kicking back, parked against a perfectly blue sky on a morning beatific in its Indian summer breeze, on the day that America fell to its knees, after strutting around for a century without saying thank you or please. And the shock was subsonic, and the smoke was deafening between the setup and the punchline, because we were all on time for work that day, and we all boarded that plane for to fly. And then while the fires were raging, we all climbed up on the windowsill, and then we all held hands and jumped into the sky. And every burro looked up when it heard the first blast, and then every dumb action movie was summarily surpassed, and the exodus uptown by foot and motor car looked more like war than anything I've seen so far. So fierce and ingenious, a poetic specter so far gone that every jackass newscaster was struck dumb and stumbling over, oh my God, and this is unbelievable, and on and on. And I'll tell you what, while we're at it, you can keep the Pentagon, you can keep the propaganda, you can keep each and every TV that's been trying to convince me to participate in some prep school punk's plan to perpetuate retribution. Perpetuate retribution, even as the blue toxic smoke of our lesson in retribution is still hanging in the air. And there's ash on our shoes, and there's ash in our hair, and there's a fine silt on every mantle from Hell's Kitchen to Brooklyn, and the streets are full of stories, sudden twists and near misses, and soon every open bar is crammed to the rafters with tales of narrowly averted disasters, and the whiskey is flowing like never before, as all over the country folks just shake their heads and pour. So here's a toast to all the folks that live in Palestine, Afghanistan, Iraq, El Salvador. Here's a toast to all the folks living on the Pine Ridge Reservation under the stone-cold gaze of Mount Rushmore. Here's a toast to all those nurses and doctors who daily provide women with a choice, who stand down a threat the size of Oklahoma City just to listen to a young woman's voice. And here's a toast to all those folks on death row right now, awaiting the executioner's guillotine, who are shackled there with dread and can only escape into their heads to find peace in the form of a dream. Because take away our PlayStations, and we are a third world nation, under the thumb of some blue blood royal son who stole the Oval Office in that phony election. I mean, it don't take a weatherman to look around and see the weather. Jeb said he'd deliver Florida, and boy, did he ever. And we hold these truths to be self-evident. Number one, George W. Bush is not president. Number two, America is not a true democracy. And number three, the media is not fooling you. It's not fooling me, because we're poems heeding hyperdistillation, and we got no room for a lie so verbose. I'm looking out over my whole human family and raising my glass in a toast. Here's to our last drink of fossil fuels. May we vow to get off of this sauce, shoo away the swarms of commuter planes and find that train ticket we lost. 'Cause once upon a time the line followed the river and peeked into all the backyards, and the laundry was waving and the graffiti was teasing us from brick walls and bridges. We were rolling over ridges, through valleys, under stars. I dream of touring like Duke Ellington in my own railroad car. I dream of waiting on the tall, blonde wooden benches in a grand station aglow with grace, and then standing out on the platform and feeling the air on my face. Give back the night its distant whistle. Give the darkness back its soul. Give the big oil companies the finger finally, and relearn how to rock and roll. The lessons are all around us, and a change is waiting there. So it's time to pick through the rubble, clean the streets, and clear the air. Get our government to pull out of somebody else's desert. Quit the adversarial stance. Quit the hypocritical chants of freedom forever. 'Cause when one lone phone rang in 2001, at 10 after 9 on 911, which was the number we all called when that lone phone rang, right off the wall, right off our desk and down the long hall, down the long stairs in the building so tall that the whole world turned just to watch it fall. And while we're at it, remember the first time around? The bomb, the Ryder truck, the parking garage, the princess that didn't even feel the pee. Remember joking around in our apartment on Avenue D? Like, can you imagine how many paper coffee cups would have to change their design following a fantastical reversal of the New York skyline? Seemed like a joke at the time. And that was just a few years ago, so let the record show that the FBI was all over that case, that the plot was obvious and in everybody's face. And scoping that scene religiously, the CIA, or is it KGB, committing countless crimes against humanity with this kind of eventuality as its excuse for abuse after expensive abuse, and they didn't have a clue. Look, another window to see through. Another key, another door, way up here on the 104th floor. 10% literal, 90% metaphor. 3,000 some poems disguised as people on an almost too perfect day. Should be more than pawns in King George's passion play, so now it's your job. And it's my job to make it that way, to make sure they didn't die in vain. Shh. Listen. Hear the train?
Ani Difranco, Self-Evident, here on Democracy Now! Can you talk about writing that poem?
Took a long time. I worked on it for months. Meanwhile, I was on tour. I was in Manhattan as well that day. I just was midtown, so, I just sort of experienced it all vicariously, just the people covered in ash, as you say, just flooding uptown, and there was just so much for all of us to react to, so I started writing, and then I went on tour later that month, just as everybody was canceling tours and going and hiding in their house. We went out, and the audiences were a little smaller at first, that atmosphere of fear and uncertainty that was paralyzing us all. So I found myself on stage suddenly, a couple weeks later, trying to speak to it, but not being able to form the words. And eventually I just started doing that poem in its unfinished form. I just called it, work in progress, until the next April when I was back in New York performing for the first time. And I performed it finally for a New York audience, for people that I launched into it, and then I had this crisis of, what am I doing? How dare I? Just looking out into the darkness thinking, well, who lost what that day? Who lost who that day in this audience? And what am I dumping on their laps in this moment? But when I did come back to New York and perform that poem, that's when I decided it was done, and I titled it Self-Evident, and I've moved on to working on other things.
You said, we hold these truths to be self-evident. George W. Bush is not president. America's not a true democracy. The media is not fooling me.
Yeah, it's amazing the audience response that, say, for instance, what you just spoke, what that brings forth from people. We know that feeling so well of just searching for affirmation for what we think, how we perceive the world, and not finding it on the TV or on the, in the newspapers, in any of the, so it's, just to stand there and say that, it really helps me to be able to breathe during the day, to celebrate the truth like that. I hear the audience every night on stage, when I speak it, and it's a very powerful feeling. you know, because you begin to doubt whether you're alone, I think, you know, when you're just saturated by these corporate, you know, messages that have nothing to do with us or reality. So it's an invigorating feeling to stand on stage and just speak to it.
How do you feel the environment has been since September 11th? Do you feel there are more people resisting now?
Well, I sure hope so. I bet there are in their hearts. You know, I mean, it's terrifying how voiceless we are, how unconnected we are. You know, I mean, I think that if we could connect ourselves, our power would just be infinite. But meanwhile, like I say, I travel around and I play shows night after night, and I feel the disillusionment, the anger, you know, I feel all of these people aware, so much more aware than the 80% approval rating of George Bush polls would have the world believe, you know. So, yes, I think that people of all kinds of people out there in America are really wondering, you know, why we're calling this man president that, you know, snuck his way into the Oval Office and such. We just, you know, we're just somewhat voiceless, I guess.
Ani Difranco is our guest for the hour, singer and songwriter. Her latest CD is So Much Shouting, So Much Laughter. And this next song, Serpentine, is so new, it's not even on the CD.
Well, let's see. Pavlov hits me with more bad news every time I answer the phone. So I play and I sing and I just let it ring all day when I'm at home. A de facto choice of macro and microcosmic melancholy. But baby, any way you slice it, I'm thinking I could just as soon use the time alone. Yeah, the goons have gone global and the CEOs are shredding files, and the Democrats and the Republicrats are flashing their toothy smiles, and Uncle Tom is posing for a photo op with the Oval Office clan, and Uncle Sam is rigging cockfights in the Promised Land, and that knife you stuck in my back is still there. It pinches a little when I sigh and moan, and these days I'm thinking I could just as soon use the time alone. 'Cause all the wrong people have the power of suggestion, and the freedom of the press is meaningless if nobody asks a question. I mean, causation by definition is such a complex compilation of factors that even try to say why is to oversimplify. But that's a far cry, isn't it, dear, from acting like you're the only one there, unrepentantly self-centered and unfair. Enter all suckers scrambling for the scoop. Exit Mr. Eye Contact, who took his flirt and flew the coop. But whatever, no matter, no fishing trips, no fishing, 'cause Mama's officially out of commission. And did I mention in there somewhere Did I mention somewhere in there that I traded Babe Ruth? Yes, I traded the only player that was bigger than the game. And I can't even tell you why, 'cause you'd think I'm insane, and that's the truth. And the music industry mafia is pimping girl power, sniping off sharpshooter singles from their styrofoam towers. And hip-hop is tied up in a back room with a logo stuffed in its mouth, 'cause the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. But then I'm getting away from myself as I get closer and closer to home. And the difference between you and me, baby, is I get messed up when I'm alone. And I must admit, today, my inner pessimist seems to have got the best of me. We start out sugared up on Kool-Aid and manifest destiny, and then we memorize all the presidents' names like little trained monkeys, and we're spitting to the world so many spinny-eyed TV junkies, incapable of unraveling the military-industrial mystery, preemptively pacified with history book history. And I've been around the world now, and I can see this about America. The mind control is steep here. The myopia is deep here. And behold those that try to expose the reality, who really try to realize democracy, are shot with rubber bullets and gassed off the streets, while the global power brokers are kept clean and discreet behind a wall, behind a moat. And that is all, that's all she wrote. Yes, and my heart beats an SSS. SSS, 'cause folks just really couldn't care less, as long as every day is Super Bowl Sunday and larger than life women in lingerie are pouting at us from every bus stop. She loves me not, she loves me not, she loves me not, she loves me not. And big government should not stand between a man and his money. I mean, what's good for business is good for the country. Our children still take that lie like communion, the same old line the Confederacy used on the Union. Conjugate liberty into libertarian and medicated, associated with deregulation, privatization. We won't even know we're slaves on a corporate plantation. Somebody say hallelujah, somebody say damnation, 'cause the profit system follows the path of least resistance, and the path of least resistance is what makes a river crooked, makes it serpentine. Capitalism is the devil's wet dream. So just give me my Judy Garland drugs and let me get back to work. 'Cause the Empire State Building is the tallest building in New York. And I always got the feeling you just like to hear it fall off your tongue. But I remember my name in your mouth, and I don't think I was done hearing it close to my ear on a whisper's way to a moan. But Pavlov hits me with more bad news every time I answer the phone. So I play and I sang and I just let it ring all day when I'm at home. A de facto choice of macro or microcosmic melancholy. But baby, any way you slice it, I'm thinking I could just as soon use the time alone.
Serpentine, Ani Difranco, here on Democracy Now! There's so much to talk about in all that you're conveying in your music and also how you're doing it. The fact that you've been able to remain independent. Do you think that determines a lot of what you can say and Serpentine and Self-Evident and...
Well, no. I think that just my belief that I can say whatever I want to say is what determines that. And that is a power that all of us have. My friend Utah Phillips said, I heard him say once that freedom of speech is, you're born with it. You know, like your eyes, your ears, you're born with it. Then you wait for somebody to come and try to take it away. And the degree to which you resist is the degree to which you are free. But it's almost the other way around. I mean, I'm not on a major label because of who I am, of what I do, because the freedom to speak is just more essential to me.
Can you talk about establishing Righteous Babe Records?
Well, it was very unceremonious. You know, there wasn't much of an establishment for years. There was just Righteous Babe Records scribbled on my little CDs, you know, which I made independently, which so many musicians do. I was just out at a club last night in New York purchasing a CD from a beautiful musician, and so I was doing that, you know, like you do in the great vast world of music beyond, you know, the corporate music industry. And then when I did start, you know, my audience was building and I started getting interest from labels, I just realized that great vast world was much more affirming to me and my work than any record company could ever be. So I just, you know, eventually my friends started helping me out, Scott, and now there's 15 people that work there. I don't know what they do, but they're selling independent records, and it's kind of a long, organic growth, you know.
You played a song at the Beacon Theater called Anticipate, which you said is kind of about the music industry.
Sure, yes, that's doable. And not only that, but I got the right guitar for the job. You are subtle as a window pane, standing in my view, but I will wait for it to rain so that I can't see you. You call me up at night when there's no light passing through, and you think that I don't understand, but I do. And we don't say everything that we could so that we can say later, oh, you misunderstood. And I hold my cards up close to my chest. I say what I have to and I hold back the rest. 'Cause someone you don't know is someone you don't know. Get a firm grip before you let go. Forever hand extended, another lies in wait. Yes, keep your eye on that one and anticipate. And dress down and get out there, pick a fight with the police. We will get it all on film for the new release. It seems like everyone's an actor, they're an actor's best friend. I wonder what was wrong to begin with, that they should all have to pretend. And we lose sight of everything when we have to keep checking our backs. I think we should all just smile, come clean and relax. But he says someone you don't know is someone you don't know. Get a firm grip before you let go. Forever hand extended, another lies in wait. Yes, keep your eye on that one and anticipate. And if there's anything I've learned all these years on my own. It's how to find my own way there, how to find my own way back home, my own way back home, my own, my own, my and you are subtle as a window pane standing in my view, but I will wait for it to rain so that I can't see you. You call me up at night when there's no light passing through, and you think that I don't understand, but I do, yes. Someone you don't know is someone you don't know. Get a firm grip before you let go. For every hand extended, another lies in wait. Yes, keep your eye on that one and anticipate.
Anticipate, Ani Difranco, here on Democracy Now! You were going to perform on David Letterman.
Yes, yeah.
So what happened?
Oh, they didn't want me to play my little folk song that I chose. I don't know. It's amazing how a big corporate network can be threatened by a little folk song. Well, that's not what they would say. They said it was too, I don't know, too slow or too soft or too big or fast or something.
Wanted something more upbeat?
Yeah, that was
you know,
the
what that
line.
reminds me of, the Wall Street Journal had a piece during the Persian Gulf War that quoted CBS executives, Letterman, CBS, saying that they didn't want the coverage of the war they wanted it to be more upbeat moving into commercials because it would be harder to sell toothpaste if, you know, they're talking about blood and gore.
Yeah.
But that's what it sort of reminds me of.
Yeah. Well, that was the song that I wanted to sing was actually sort of spoke to that too, that, you know, kind of turning us from citizens into consumers. And yeah, I guess that's not good, cutting to commercials. So
what was the song you
they
wanted to sing?
declined a song called Subdivision. I would need a minute to tune, but
that's fine.
Okay.
Take the minute.
Ooh, it's a whole other key. Democracy Now! Airing what Letterman can't. White people are so scared of black people. They bulldoze out to the country and put up houses on little loop-de-loop streets. And America got its heart cut right out of its chest. And the Berlin Wall still runs down Main Street, separating east side from west. And nothing is stirring, not even a mouse, in the boarded up stores and the broken down houses. So they hang colorful banners off all the street lamps, just to prove they got no manners, no mercy and no sense. And I'm wondering what it will take for my city to rise. First we admit our mistakes, and then we open our eyes. The ghosts of old buildings are haunting parking lots in the city of good neighbors that history forgot. I remember the first time I saw someone lying on the cold street. I thought, I can't just walk past here. This can't just be true. But I learned by example to just keep moving my feet. It's amazing the things that we all learn to do, and so we're led by denial like lambs to the slaughter, serving empires of style and carbonated sugar water and the old farm road's a 4-lane that leads to the mall. And our dreams are all guillotines waiting to fall. And I'm wondering what it will take for my country to rise. First we admit our mistakes, and then we open our eyes. The ghosts of old buildings are haunting parking lots in the city of good neighbors that history forgot. Oh, I'm wondering what it will take for my country to rise. First we admit our mistakes, and then we open our eyes. When nature succumbs to one last dumb decision, and America the beautiful is just one big subdivision.
Letterman's loss is our game.
Dave, we hardly knew ya. Yeah.
So is he going to invite you on again?
I doubt it. There was quite a little scene that ensued from our little declining to be declined.
What happened?
Well, they were not impressed. I think it had never happened to them before.
How does it work? Do you audition something before?
No, you give them, you tell them, well, I think you're supposed to play the hit single and sell the record. I think that's the way it works. But with me, it was like, well, can she just tell us maybe one of three, give us 3 songs she's going to choose from? Because, I like to just be in the moment and play. So I gave them 3 songs. Subdivision was one, and they okayed the list of 3. But then when it came down to the one I chose, they were not okay with it. And I think generally people just do what they say, because it's more important to get the exposure than to, So it seemed like that they were shocked.
How does it work? Do you perform it live on the show when it's actually being taped, or you do a separate?
Oh, no, you perform it like 6 times in the morning, and the 7th time is somewhere mid-afternoon, and that's when the show is actually taped.
So were you on that day when they were doing it? Were you actually there yet?
No, we weren't there yet. So that's what
They'd
it amounted
mixed it
to. We
before.
bought a bunch of plane tickets that we didn't use, and that's really all that it meant. I mean, that was just a simple thing to say no to, playing a song, after all the years of practice that I've had with no,
Like when else? When do you?
Well, just being independent, saying no to record companies back when yes would have been a lot easier, and life was, I hadn't built my own audience to the level that I had now, and life was a little more hand to mouth, A record company could have really helped me 10 years ago, paying the rent and getting my music out there and whatnot. So those were very hard no's, to say, no thanks, I'll just do my own thing.
So what kept you going through those no's? Did
Well,
you have any questions?
Oh, yeah, especially way back when, I didn't have a lot of help. Now I have lots of help, but back, when I was living like most musicians live, every day I had to remind myself what it is what am I doing and not doing and why, and, and the amount of jealousy that you feel when, one weekend somebody is opening my show in a bar and 6 months later they're on the cover of every magazine and they, the record deal and the this and that. And
They've said yes to Letterman.
They've said yes to Letterman, and that happens for a bunch of years, and you have to keep learning the answer to why, keep exploring it, and beyond that, I think just really enjoying your work helps. Back when it was difficult, it was also wonderful. and I was doing what I love. And I was traveling around in my little car and meeting people and playing shows in front of a handful of people, but even that was exciting to me, to me, whether it's 30 or 3,000, the feeling is the same. So if I can have that feeling all on my own, then why compromise, I guess, is what I figured. But really being happy where I am has helped me in so many ways.
How do you write your songs? What is the process you go through? I once interviewed Isabel Allende, and she talked about how every time she starts a new book, it has to be on the same day of the year.
Wow.
And she knows it's coming,
Ritual.
and she prepares. And what's
Beautiful.
your ritual, or do you
Goodness.
have one?
Well, I'm beginning to form my own rituals. I was almost, anti. People would say, well, what do you do to prepare for a show? Oh, I have a beer, chat with my friends, try not to be late, But I find now that I do perform my own little private rituals around my work I don't know if that I could verbalize them. It's sort of, in terms of the writing process, it's really different all the time, words first, melody first, guitar, this, that, on a train, at home, in a hotel, in a dressing room. It's, and the process for me is a bit subterranean, it's not conscious. It's often hours later, and I have a song or half a song, and the time in between is hard for me to describe.
Do you tend to scratch it out with a pen, or do you work on a computer?
Oh, no, I don't even own a computer. I'm a folk singer through and through. Somehow I managed to miss that whole computer thing. So, yeah, I'm pencil and paper kind of gal. I'm lucky that way. I got a lot of friends who know how to use computers.
You, in addition to performing around the country and putting out CDs, have a DVD, a movie called Render. And in it, there's a whole section where you talk about the death penalty.
Yeah, well, my friend and manager, Scott, who I've known for 15 years, and he's done a lot of criminal defense work. And so I sort of learned about the criminal injustice system through him, and meeting a lot of people who do death penalty defense work, and these are just miraculous, joyous, wonderful, tireless people who lose more often than not, when you live down in Texas or Alabama or Georgia and you're trying to keep people from being killed by your government. Most often you fail, and at midnight the clock ticks and your client, your friend, is gone. And they continue to fight for justice nonetheless, and are such an inspiration to me, There's an organization in Atlanta, Georgia, for instance, called the Southern Center for Human Rights, and those folks are friends of ours, and we still do a lot of work with them, supporting them and vice versa. And
you are a woman who is not afraid to express anger. What made you that way? How do you feel firm in that as you express it, whether you're on stage telling people to be quiet, or expressing anger in your songs at the way things are?
Well, gosh, I guess I came to that through at least 20 years of silence, just not expressing anger at all. And I'd love to say that I'm not afraid now, but I still struggle with that. In fact, when I started making records at 19 or so, that was my only place for my anger, because I'm my mother's daughter, and I am teaching myself through my work to be whole off stage, and to be able to express myself even when it makes other people uncomfortable, or when, yeah, mostly it's an ongoing journey for me, you know, um, to try and find a place for my own anger at my society. You know, I think there is plenty of room for it, though. You know, there's so much justifiable rage that people are carrying around, and really constructive anger that has such great uses, political change and societal change. You know, so you know, I've been kind of exploring that through my work, and then through that trying to actually bring it into my one-on-one, you know. But that's very hard, even for me, you know. I look as though I'm a symbol for something, right, you know, confidence, but that's not necessarily so, you know. I struggle with it too.
Why don't we end the interview with a song that, when I heard it, completely, blew me away. And I know you must play it quite a lot, that people demand it all the time. For those who haven't heard it yet, this is Ani Difranco's Next Bold Move. And for those of you who hear her all the time, I know you'll be thankful.
Coming of age during the plague of Reagan and Bush, watching capitalism gun down democracy. It had this funny effect on me, I guess. I am cancer, I am HIV, and I'm down at the Blue Jesus Blue Cross Hospital, just looking up from my pillow, feeling blessed. And the mighty multinationals have monopolized the oxygen, so it's as easy as breathing for us all to participate. Yes, they're buying and selling off shares of air, and you know it's all around you, but it's hard to point and say there. So you just sit on your hands and quietly contemplate your next bold move. The next thing you're gonna need to prove to yourself. And what a waste of thumbs that are opposable to make machines that are disposable, and sell them to seagulls flying in circles around one big right wing. Yeah, the left wing was broken long ago by the slingshot of COINTELPRO, and now it's so hard to have faith in anything, especially your next bold move. next thing you're gonna need to prove to yourself? So we just got to track each trickle back to its source, and then scream up the faucet till our faces are hoarse. 'Cause we're surrounded by a world's worth of things we just can't excuse. Yeah, I got the hard cough of a chain smoker, and I'm at the Arctic Circle playing strip poker, and it's getting colder and colder every time I lose. So go ahead, make your next bold move. Tell us, what's the next thing you're gonna need to prove to yourself? To yourself.
Ani, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me once again.
Ani Difranco here on Democracy Now! You can go to our website at www.democracynow.org. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us at mail, M-A-I-L, at democracynow.org. Democracy Now! Is produced by Chris Abrams, Mike Burke, Angie Karen, Anna Noguera, Alex Wolf, Mike DeFilippo, and Rich Kim are our engineers. And special thanks today to Uri Galed, Angela Alston, Emily Kunstler, Orlando Richards, Simba Russo, Mark Malari, Abraham Altak, Tracy Izat, and Novin Hoy. Downtown Community Television, John Alpert, and Keiko Tsuno. And you can write to us at Democracy Now!, P.O. Box 693, New York, New York, 10013. That's Democracy Now!, P.O. Box 693, New York, New York, 10013. Again, our email address, mail@democracynow.org. For another edition of Pacifica Radio's Democracy Now!, I'm Amy Goodman, this program dedicated to Chris Abrams on her second anniversary as producer of Democracy Now!